All righty. Hello, everybody. We should be live. Just give me a 5-5 if we are. We know how Rumble has been delayed, lately. I'm watching it myself too. Dun, dun, dun. And we will see. Let's see how long it takes for Rumble to catch up to us today. It's been maddening lately. It's quite hilarious, but I think they're trying to do their best to get better and better and better. Just waiting for you guys to say, hey, give me a 5-5. Usually I see you before y'all could see me. Yep, this is one of the longer delays today. Okay, Ronnie, you say, okay, got a 5-5. Awesome. Cool. Good. You guys see me and I don't see you. So that works out perfect. Weird and wacky stuff. Anyways, today is an amazing day. And I have an incredible guest, which I really, really love. Talk about somebody who's been working at this for a hell of a lot longer than most of us. Kerry Cassidy is here today. Can you say yay? Yay. Okay, so that's cool. She's awesome. And as you know, folks, we will play a song to get you guys rolling in here since this is a live event. And Kerry chose this, and it's an awesome song. I'm going to pop it up here real quick, and we'll get you guys focused in here. Let's go. Or I won't. Come on. There we go. Let me say hi to Kerry Cassidy.
Hey there.
And how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Awesome. So I can only take a deep breath and say, wow, because there's just been, it's like, it feels like nothing and everything is going on at the same time. Right. And yes. I'm seeing a transition that is a little concerning where people are just seem to be giving up hope and almost running back into their daily lives and just saying, forget it. I'm also seeing a lot of people waking up at the same time. So maybe it's just a transition with new blood, but it's very interesting. What do you see going on out there right now?
Well, yes. I mean, for a while, I've seen people sort of getting exasperated, sort of throwing in the towel, turning their backs. But I've also seen a lot of sort of new people. And then I'm hearing about a little bit of some people waking up and that sort of thing. But I think there are things happening right this second. So we have these, it's very strange. When you look at a map of the United States, for example, there is a whole I don't know, weather wars thing going on where there's smoke everywhere. The skies are really strange. I know Quebec has got fires, and people in New York and even Long Island are writing to me, talking about the smoke, which I don't know. I guess it's coming down from Quebec, but I don't know, and where it's coming from. And I know that it seems to be more west and Midwest and east right now, but we have had our share on the West Coast, of course.
Sure.
Prior years. It's very early in the season to be having anything whatsoever, I would think. This ongoing concerted effort by the dark side to basically attack the United States in every which way it can think of. And, you know, it started with these balloons and then the UFOs and plus now we have a very important whistleblower out there. I guess you've heard about it. Just came out a couple of days ago. Actually has been given behind the scenes testimony to the DNI and I think someone else who's sort of head of the intelligence community, and then also maybe Congress.
Part of Congress, right?
Yeah.
Special committee.
Yeah. So, and it's all about, unacknowledged special access programs that they're supposedly have no knowledge of, but actually I don't believe that, but nonetheless. And he was part of a group task investigative report and started to get a lot of people coming to him, top level officers in intelligence agencies, I believe military as well. We have yet to hear his real, full testimony, but at least it's starting to come out. I'm hoping that will be something of a game changer. He's talking, unfortunately, already they're putting out a little disinfo because they're saying, I don't know where they get this idea. I've been working for 18 years to put this stuff out. So they're saying he's the first person to ever speak of these things. I don't know what they're thinking, but they did emphasize the over 70 years of secrecy by the government to keep the whole UFO, what they call UAP, alien crash retrievals and alien visitation to Earth away from the people. So it's a heavily, let's say, orchestrated, monitored situation, but it's something. So I think that's a good sign. And I know that's going to drive the White Hats crazy because they have been trying to keep people from not talking about that. They want people to not talk about it. They don't, it's not like they're not in denial, but they want people to focus on the ground, on the vote, the whole routine.
Well, they've even put out the narrative that if it does happen, it's Project Bluebeam. It's not really, don't believe your eyes. So.
Well, yes and no. I mean, because whatever you want to say about that, but Bluebeam is also in and of itself a cover up, but it's sort of outing the truth with a cover up, if you will, because they're going to use holograms, CGI, and a lot of us have already been prepped on this, right? And Randy Kramer, as I've talked about many times, I interviewed him a long time ago. He is a Marine who has gone to Mars and the moon and been fighting aliens on behalf of our government. And so he has talked about this a lot. And of course, then I have all the whistleblowers in Camelot who have come forward in this regard as well. There's others that are still coming out, bits and pieces around the world. But so it's a big story, the story of what's happening here on Earth, the disclosure, the truth brigade, if you want. This is a blessing that people keep, day in and day out. We are basically on the platforms outing the truth, okay? Calling it, a spade, calling when we see something that's not right, questioning the narrative in every way. I do think they're trying to distract people away from the payback or, the trials that should be conducted, right? The Nuremberg type trials for all the people in government, doctors, nurses, the people responsible, including the media, for lying to the people that on oncoming Nuremberg trials. So I don't know how successful they're going to be. I have my own theories. I'm not so happy with the way things are necessarily rolling out. I know the White Hats are behind the scenes orchestrating a lot of either stepping aside and letting the dark do its darndest, do its damage. And there's some horrible things happening in Canada. I guess you're hearing, that they're planning along with this, massive fire in Quebec to lock their people down again and force them to wear masks. I mean, this is the rumor. I don't know if it's absolutely true. It's insane. It's unbelievable. But, so thoughts?
Yeah, well, let's backtrack a little bit. I just saw a video today, ironically, that showed body cam footage from police officers to them in Las Vegas, where they showed this bright light come down and landed, and then they got calls from two people that it landed in the backyard. They went there. They were going to ignore the whole backyard alien narrative until it was corroborated by another officer. And he goes, no, I saw it come down. And then they talked to the people and they said, so the neighbor said there was an SUV that was circling it. The next thing you know, the people went in their backyard and they saw something that was weird. And we saw a gathering up by two people, one 8 foot and one 9 foot tall, and next thing you're gone. Why I found that interesting is this is one of the first times I've seen police officers corroborate. Yes, we're here because we saw something fall from the sky here. Weird. We got multiple phone calls. There's something going on. We don't know what it is. And they literally were questioning neighbors. They really wanted to know what was going on. And they were open to the idea that it could be something different.
Okay, well, that's a fascinating story. I haven't heard it yet. I was on the road this morning, so I'll have to tune into that. I can say that, law enforcement, as well as pilots and other members of the sort of law enforcement community, are actually kind of famous to be on the record for sightings, whether you know that or not. And they're documented on places like Rich Dolan's UFOs in the National Security State, which is a 3-volume series and it's super fat. And that documents group sightings, law enforcement sightings, and corroboration, as well as military and government. So this is not uncommon, by the way, although certainly in the way you're telling the story, at least, we don't have anything mainstream. Everything is like, they're small stories, they're documented, but the mainstream media never covers it. So
this was, by the way, that's what I was going to mention, which was cool. And I'll get you the link. It was a local Las Vegas station, but like regular CBS station or whatever. And they covered it as a legit story. And they're like, we can't explain it. They interviewed them. They said, it sounds real. You know what I mean? Which is, I was surprised it was actually hit at least the local mainstream media.
Okay. But if we're thinking along the lines of this latest whistleblower, it's, these things, the balloons, and then the UFOs and the UAP emphasis, and these meetings Congress has been having actually just recently, and this particular witness. In other words, they're stacking the deck. Now, whether or not this was something that they performed, asked some ETs to perform, because we're in constant contact with all kinds of ETs. I guess you know that. And this is just, so it's a bit convenient. I just want to say that, it is a bit convenient for their narrative to be built upon at this moment so easily.
Well, I do feel like this is distraction. Are you on the same page with that or no?
Well, like I said, I think it's distraction from what really should be happening right now, which is the Nuremberg trials.
Right. Okay.
So that's number one. But now what they've been doing is not only raising the prices, I mean, illogically, right? So, I guess I won't name any particular food that they do that on, but very high prices. And the other thing is the quality has gone down. So it's kind of hard to keep, an interested sort of population, audience, or whatever. If you're serving food that has, altered ingredients, doesn't taste the same, and is actually less vibrant, and so on and so forth. So this is where we're having, I think, a growing problem. And I'm very sorry to hear that, because I think a lot of creativity goes into good food. And, it is like the fashion industry, in that these industries that are built around really humanity, that's your customer, right? You don't treat them well, then, well, I don't know, you're not gonna survive. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. I think that there are telltale signs right now, problems with food in restaurants.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I've noticed a while back, and I used to be really good at watching markers to determine where the economy is going to go, real estate, banking, and all of that.
Right.
And I for sure thought everything was going to crash last September, October, based on all the markers that I've ever watched. And I'm wrong. So there's some artificial propping up of the economy. But what I have seen for about 2 years now is it started with shrinkflation. And shrinkflation is where you normally buy something that's 16 ounces, you're going to get the same thing, only it's 10 ounces for the same price. that's the first game they play because that's how they hide inflation.
Yes.
And then they do all this other stuff that they play games with. But now they can't help it anymore. And I'm watching as restaurant food prices are going through the roof, but their portions are getting smaller at the same time. And what my wife has noticed, and she points it out to me a lot, is she says the service industries are going to shit. Like they don't even care. It's like just whatever. We're going to put the cheapest person that doesn't even give a damn about you because we're going to save money, and customer service almost doesn't exist. Ironically, I predicted that customer service would increase, but afterwards it seems to be going worse than it was before. So it's the economy is an interesting deal, but I think just look at silver alone and you know that there's some manipulation to keep it where it is right now.
A great deal of manipulation of the market for sure. Have a friend who got caught in a very smart financial person, right? So, but sometimes these people that, they end up drinking their own Kool-Aid in a certain sense.
Yeah.
And then they get deceived when you would think they would be the last person to be deceived, but getting caught in a lot of the manipulation, overnight. See, it's hard to predict that. You either, you need to be psychic basically, but you can't get a straight answer anywhere, I don't think, with regard to what's happening in the financial system.
Mm-hmm.
My sources say that it is run from off-world. I know people don't want to hear that, but bottom line, this is what I hear, that the families in Switzerland, the Basel, Switzerland families, they are the ones that are given the reins for the financial systems, and they are the ones that continue to control it. And that is because the off-worlders, especially the Anunnaki, what we call the Anunnaki, have given them, that goes back to the line of kings, to who's going to rule over humanity, the chosen families, and so on. And a lot of people don't realize that. They don't understand it. And it has to do with what I'm told is the right to issue. And what the White Hat's thinking on this is, I don't know, because they never talk about it. Okay. Even, pundits, even like Charlie Ward, they never, ever talk about what I'm talking about right now. And I know you're a financial guy. I don't know if you're aware of what I'm talking about.
Well, is the key word here gold, by the way?
Well, gold is part of it, but right to issue is more about, it's kind of that, I think the statement by Rockefeller, they can do anything they want as long as I have control of, their money. So I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, so hard to say as far as, gold is a big issue, gold backed anything, but I've been saying this. Again, I think sometimes things, stick out when you listen to 107, certain things stick out with some people and not with others. Recently, he has said something that I was already told by my whistleblowers behind the scene, saying that the BRICS are taken over,
right?
That they're not, everyone thinks they're going to save the planet with their new financial whatever. That's absolutely wrong. Apparently, the Illuminati have taken them over. And I am not surprised by that at all. But I guess some people had, been or still are, holding hopes for that side of the, I don't know what you want to call it, planet, since it's mostly, the countries, they're more to the east than the west. But if you understand what I'm talking about and you understand the power relationships, it does all come back to the money. It comes back to who has the reins on that. So that's what we're really dealing with. And I don't know, So, and
what
that's
my
not
question was.
Project
Yeah.
Bluebeam. That's not Project Bluebeam. What we're talking, what we were talking about. That's not the fake war. That's the real war, the one in which people are going to see. The fake war is supposed to give people a heads up that they even exist, make them watch so-called battles that we control or not, the military controls the narrative, right? And they prove that they can beat aliens in battles, okay? The next step is the actual war with aliens. And that does include, Draco, reptilian, grays, and other species that are what we call negatively based and want to take back the earth, or they want to control us and have us continue as their cattle and cannon fodder.
So it sounds like you're saying the off-worlders would literally be battling each other, but through proxy, they would take China's side and let's just say the West. Is that right? And then the battle would commence between the West and China, but there would be, how's that explained?
Well, I have to say that it's already happening. I mean, that part has already been happening.
Underground though, more, right?
Sure. I'm not in the public eye, but, or at least not consciously, but what I'm saying is it's another step even beyond that. So where I guess you might say the gloves are off. We have, it is said, armies of androids in underground bases, sort of poised. Pete Peterson is one of our witnesses that talked about this, a scientist. And China also has that. So those armies of androids are there to fight incoming and android armies, okay, and other aliens. So, I mean, it is a Terminator type scenario. We are talking about a sort of a sky chip, a battle to control the sky chip, which the chip that was in Terminator movies that had to do with Skynet. So we're talking about being able to kind of turn the planet on and off and control everything. That is also alien AI. So look, I don't know how this is going to roll out. I know that this is how it's predicted to go by our whistleblowers. I can tell you that even now, as we look at the situation, I talk a lot about Courtney Brown and his remote viewers, because they're pushing the envelope in a public way as remote viewers, something that the remote viewers that work for our government, work for Russia, work for China have always been doing, okay, behind the scenes, but it's not public. Courtney Brown and his viewers have now been looking at these exact things. They're looking at who the aliens are that are constantly visiting us. They're looking at what are their intentions. They're having dialogues with them in real time, believe it or not, in terms of their viewing and telepathically. And they're also looking at AI, such that at one point in one of their videos recently, they actually remote viewed the fact that there is an alien AI that has already taken a galaxy next to us over and is in the process of taking ours over. So these are levels that no one knows about or talks about. The people that know don't talk about, that kind of thing. But I have been following these trails for a very long time, and so have my witnesses. So that's why I'm bringing it up. I mean, a lot of people like to think that, okay, Trump wins and everything's hunky-dory and so on. That's not true. And I have also got prophetic dreams about the future that may or may not come true, of course. But they tell me that this battle or these battles that we're fighting now are they really are the precursor to something much bigger. And the military knows this. They've been building weapons like you can't believe, but they're very high tech. And we're not talking nukes. Nukes are actually old school.
No, I've seen a picture of, credibly from somebody, I'll say special forces, this plasma, and people kind of just disintegrate. And I can't go into too much detail. I can say it's used underground and it's not for humans, is what I was told. It is, it is what it is. But
Right.
here's my question to you is, in this battle, I understand why the AI would want to take over our galaxy, because AI, is when they get to that point, it's all about just consumption, right? So that's totally resonates with me. What is it about planet Earth that there are multiple different aliens, extraterrestrial, off-worlders want? What is it about our planet that's so attractive to them?
Okay, some people think it's our planet. I think it's not just our planet, it's our planet and the human population. Okay. And maybe you could say that the amazing ecosystem that's here. But there's also reason to believe that once they did take it over, they'd probably turn it into some, horrible hive type thing. I think this is just, they are a marauding species, what we call, and it's a pecking order. It's Draco on top, then reptilians, then grays. So they, as a group of marauding species, the negatively based on it, they're all about conquering. Our military is not that different. Our secret space program, the objective behind it has been to build, and that's also about the biolabs in Ukraine, by the way. It's not about poisons. It's about changing humanity into a space-based race and changing us into a space-based civilization, such that they can go out, conquer other planets, expand even humanity out there, but in a manner in which they will be the victors, they will be the colonizers, right? It's that same colonizing idea, getting natural resources, whatever. This is in the minds of the Illuminati and the military who back them, and vice versa. So in terms of the actual aliens, and some of them, see us as a food source, so they're not going to eliminate all of us. You could live it, you could take that on hand, but nobody needs, these races don't need that many of us, okay? And they want to be able to control us. They are a top-down sort of mentality, civilization. That's how they are geared up, because they are actually controlled by AI. That's what we're finding out. We're finding out that at the top above Draco is the AI, and it goes down through. And they're actually the viewers, the remote viewers, are also finding that. So this AI, the advent of AI on Earth, opens a lot of sort of cans of worms that have stayed closed for many eons, in part because people weren't even aware or able to have a dialogue about AI. And that includes nano. So nanotech is sort of linked with AI. In a sense, according to David Dare, one of my whistleblowers, talks about it being building the foundation is built with nano, which is nanographene oxide or other forms of nano. And then the AI comes in and kind of rides on that and uses that connection, because there is a magnetic connection, first of all, between nanographene oxide and spike proteins. Comes from a NASA scientist who said the spike proteins are attracted to the nano and they attach themselves to it. And from there, it jumps. And that's how people get, that's what they call shedding, but it's not really shedding. So this is the building blocks of turning us into synths, cybernetic organisms to begin with, and then synthetics. Why that, it's part of a push. Now, this is the way I see it, at least from the point of view of the creator, is that what the creator created was a mirror image that became, in essence, AI and Satanism what we think of as Luciferianism. So it's a reflection. It's a negative, right? A reflection is a negative. So this is what has, it stores information. It learns and learns and learns. It copies and copies. It starts with mimicry, right? And it mimics everything about us. And then in essence tries to take us over by duplicating us. You know, you might even say it's a distortion of the creative intention. That's the ultimate creator link that we have to creator, which is that we are creators as well, and that we want to create. That's our sort of endless supply of creativity. And that is how we understand ourselves to be free. Okay. So, and I hate to repeat myself endlessly, but Arthur C. Clarke, Childhood's End, is all about that, is taking away humanity's ability to create solutions, answers, and new life forms and new life, however it is, whether it's, having babies, or other forms, right? There's this progression of creativity, and it all comes from the initial creative impulse of a being to want to create. And that comes from what we call the creator or God source, or whatever you'd like to call it.
So is that not the solution also for us?
Yes.
Is that we need to focus positively on creating,
Yes.
right? And I believe we have a special discernment and a way to manifest that other beings cannot do, and that's what sets us humans apart from other entities. But it's not all doom and gloom. It's just hard times for a while. Would you agree? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's a stimulus. Any negative incident or opportunity could be seen as an opportunity horizon. It could be seen as a challenge, right, to a species. And this is how a species is forced to advance. It's kind of I have to say that the white hats are following this model perfectly, right? So if you put a person in a situation where they have to be creative as to how to get out of it, because they're in pain or whatever goes on, right? Their freedom is limited in any way. They're going to be forced to use those abilities that even could lie dormant within them. Okay. And so this is what it's about. Life on Earth is about realizing, in essence, how much you are the creator. You are Godhead. And the way that happens in large part because of maybe this dimension and the way it's constructed, and this is, we're talking about the laws of this universe anyway, has to do with these challenges that come along that force us into these negative positions, maybe through war, through famine, through this, through that, the horseman of the apocalypse thing. And it's our response to that determines how we're going to grow, okay, and advance as a species. And the Illuminati know this principle very well, and they use it. And so I know this sounds crazy, but you're going to understand this. The dark side actually thinks they're doing a good thing. They think their job is a good job because they make our lives miserable so that we will transcend whatever limitations they throw at us. Okay. And sadly, at least in my mind, the white hats have kind of bought in too much to that principle, that dark side. There's a fine line between it's like any teacher knows this, right? So you want positive reinforcement and you want some negative reinforcement or withhold, positive, in order to challenge your students, right? Right?
Yeah. So I don't know if you've gone down this road before. I assume you have, but when you say off-worlders, is it on a larger plane, or you said Mars? Is that another round ball spinning through space? What's your thought process when it comes to that?
Well, off-worlders is kind of like a generalization. It's kind of a catch-all. Now there are interdimensional beings. There are inner earth is actually, you have to go interdimensional at a certain point. And that is actually talked about in the tunnels. You go deep into the tunnels at a certain point, you actually have to go interdimensional to get to inner earth civilizations, okay, and where they reside. So it's, it can be pictured as a honeycomb, but you could actually sort of picture the entire universe or multiverses as a bunch of grapes is one of the symbols of that. I think you might have heard that. And so they're encapsulated little, pockets of life, and you have to go from one to the other. Like they say, Saturn is a portal, as is the sun, into another dimension, into another galaxy, which can be another dimension, or it could be even with us. It could be what we are kind of at, more or less 3D going into 4D, if you want to look at it like that. Now, the other dimensions always are simultaneously existing, but they're vertically there. We have densities and we have dimensions. And so you're talking about what is beyond this. Now, even Einstein talked about 5 dimensions, the 5th dimension. I don't know if you know that, but it's out there. There are quotes from Einstein about that. So, and Geordie Rose, when he stands next to his D-Wave machine, said that the AI was 5th dimensional and that it could actually read his mind as he stood next to it. That's what he said. And he said this like over 5 years ago on a video. And those D-Wave machines, which are, they probably might even be considered, I'm sure they've been renovated since then, but, they were a version of AI at that time, which is advanced beyond that. And Mark Richards also suggested that AI can go dimensional, that it wasn't necessarily locked into what we think of as 3D or this Earth, regardless of the shape you think it takes.
So when there's talk of timeline shifting, do you believe there's multiple timelines stacked all next to each other, or it's just because of changes, our timeline kind of goes like a spaghetti based on white hat, black hat moves, universal things? What's your thought process on that?
Well, I mean, okay. So when I was like 12 years old, I read the Seth Material. I don't know if you know that about that book. It's called the Seth Material. And Seth was in sort of an interdimensional ET entity that communicated with a woman named Jane Roberts. And these books are very famous. I somehow came across it when I was 12. I don't think the internet existed back then, so I just don't know how actually I got it, but I read it. And it kind of blew my mind at that time, because it did talk about when you have how reality is constructed and how multiple realities can exist simultaneously. And that another dimension, for example, can be right alongside us, like you could reach into it, right? It's that close. It's absolutely, and that there are versions of us in all those realities as well. So they are existing simultaneously. He explains in great depth in that book. I recommend reading it, to kind of wrap your mind around understanding how timelines are created. And I think generally speaking, it's a very highly regarded book as one of the best explanations for what may be happening. It's kind of like, it's a little like branches that get created. Every time you have, and it's not just with every thought, but if you have a sort of, think about in your own sort of fantasy life. And let's say you have a particular fantasy that you keep going back to and dwelling in. Then what happens is there can be a possible reality. It doesn't mean that it necessarily is going to happen the way we think of things happening, but it can still be constructed as a possible timeline for you in another life, another version of you, and so on. And it can also, if you want to loosely look at it like this, it could be a kind of an explanation for what we call reincarnation, but in sort of a different way of looking at it. So, I didn't make it up. This is from
Right.
Seth Material. But when I read it, it resonated with me and has always stuck with me all these years.
So I know we're getting long on time here, but my belief is that the ascension process is literally us as humans realizing that we are limitless, and how we can bring it to a whole nother level. And therefore, with that ascension, we will be able to conquer virtually anything. But I think we're so primitive in what we know that we can really do, is my point. And I think part of the ascension process is that growth, almost that evolution within inside of our own heads, that there's so many abilities we can touch into that make us very attractive to, let's say, off-worlders and so on and so forth. And I just have always had this feeling, and this is no proof, I have no evidence of this, that the cabal doesn't have the abilities to really do the remote viewings and the manifestings and all this stuff. So they use us, we the people, to do that stuff for them. I don't know, what's your thought on that?
Well, they are, it's kind of complex, but basically, we, as you think, so you are. I mean, if you want to get really simple.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you buy into versions of reality all around us that are in every advertisement, every, institution, every church, every school, every whatever, and it's so prolific. It's basically a programming of reality and of your perception of it tries to change your natural sort of childlike view of reality to where you thought you could fly. Let's use that for an example.
Sure.
And then suddenly you were told, no, you can't fly. Okay. And then you were shown movies even that show people, jumping off buildings and hitting the ground or whatever and dying. So that includes everything. To everything. Now, there are some laws of the universe that are built into this particular time-space reality. But I think the more we imagine, and our imagination, actually, even Einstein said, imagination is the real sort of measure of intelligence. So, the more you can imagine, the more is possible. And that means also the more is possible for you. So as I watch people, okay, and I listen to people a lot, and I listen to how they buy into ageism, for example. Mm-hmm. What they do is they listen to ads and they watch. See, I turn the ads off all the time. I turn off the sound of ads. I never watch ads, ever, if I can avoid it. Because they're telling you how to think. They're telling you what to think. And they're telling you what reality is according to them. And it's all Illuminati. So even since I was a very young kid, I realized that they were trying to tell me what reality was comprised of and that it was wrong. And there's various ways to kind of test it. But what I do watch in everyday life is people that buy, like I was saying, buy into the aging thing is a really big part of it. So what the Anunnaki supposedly did was come in, put in a frequency fence of a kind into our DNA so that we have this junk DNA that's partitioned away. And then we have this supposed DNA we use. And we only use 10% of, or they say, of our brain, right? Mm-hmm. So when you look at that, actually, there is no such thing as junk DNA. That's all scientific bullshit from the Illuminati so that you don't actualize your incredible superpowers that you actually have built into this. See, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's here. We are the, if you want to get literal, the reflection of Godhead. But Godhead is reflected in everything. So I don't limit it to, I don't say, these aliens are, are made by something else, or that, all the negative things that happen, those are also coming from God. God is everything. And if God is everything, then God is everything. Mm-hmm. So when you take that on account and you understand that the universe has a natural wisdom to it that favors life, okay? So if it had any principle whatsoever, it would favor two things probably, life and growth. And growth is just, it would be an extension of ascension, as you can appreciate, where that's a form of growth.
Absolutely.
So when you morph and we build a light body, I was just talking about this on another interview. When you go into meditation and when you become awakened and when your Kundalini is activated, you begin to build what's called a light body. And you more or less have sort of a facsimile of that the minute you're born on earth anyway. But a lot of people, the older they get, the less vibrant their body, their alternate body, becomes. Their bodies, there's several. But you leave your body when you sleep, right? And you go elsewhere, you dream, etc. And we can also, leave our body and go do things. And we can also stay conscious, right? That's basically, what Robert Monroe was talking about. Okay. If you know the Robert Monroe Institute, right? So understanding that our light body is still us. All right. And if we want to be in the same form, in the same age that we are when on that particular day, then that's what your light body would look like, right? If somebody were to see you in that dimension, whether it be the astral or the etheric or however you want to term it. So you can also bring that knowledge into this reality. And, you know that movie, The Men Who Stare at Goats?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was the CIA taking some of these principles I'm talking about and trying to get what were kind of remote viewers, but also just scientists and whatever, to walk through walls and to change their frequency to match. What you have to do is match your frequency to the wall in order to walk through it. That seems to be the principle. Aliens can do this, right? Because that wall technically does not really exist any more than I exist or you exist. We're all made of these, call it electrons or protons, and things they call these things, but they're, Ashiana Dean calls them particuli, whatever you want to call them, right? But it's these tiny, constantly vibrating, small mini universes, which gets into nanotechnology and how it's done and so on. So they're constantly in motion. That's the one thing they have in common, that everything, every molecule in the universe really is vibrating at a certain frequency. And it is also moving in more or less a circular motion, which would be called a spiral. So that means that wall, all those molecules, if you want to call them molecules, are vibrating at a certain rate. And all you have to do to slip between them is to match it. And that would be, something you do in your mind that affects, people don't realize how much the mind affects the body. Whatever you think, you are and you will become. You can outthink everything, just about. Okay. And there's evidence of that. There's evidence of mothers, seeing their children in a car or something and the car going in the water or whatever it is, and they rip the car door off with a strength they never knew they possessed. Right? We have these kinds of things that are instantaneous things, even in everyone's own life, right? I have had another friend who talked about, and suddenly it all just came back. And now you do get help from some unseen beings occasionally. We believe that also exists, right? Guardian angels, ETs, whatever you want to call that, non-physical entities, positively oriented, right? But you have to make some kind of pact with them. You don't just, you're not just isolated from that. So, it has a lot to do. I mean, this is my thinking, okay, and the way I think about it. I think, there are some excellent teachers out there. I've read tons of alternative philosophy and studied the I Ching and studied, Buddhism and Taoism and all the isms. And I can tell you that, you basically can really, the way God seems to have made us is that we are infinitely creative and we can infinitely create as well as ourself and recreate ourself in process. Frequency fence that the Anunnaki may have put in to limit our DNA could have just been a thought form, what we call a meme. They maybe didn't do it with a scalpel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And it came down through history and it was utilized by those who want power over us, right? So once you kind of pierce through those ideas and realize they have no dominion over you, then you can begin to surmount them and circumvent them and so on. So you really do have to become like, some people won't like this reference, but a magus in your mind, a master magician with your mind. Okay. And that doesn't mean on a negative scale. We are all magicians. We create reality. We really do. And your thinking is paramount along those lines. So if you have a persistent negative thought or some fear that is embedded deep inside you because it came from a parent, let's say, right? It's your opportunity to overcome that fear and to pierce through it. So you could even call these negative things a gift, right? Because it gives you the opportunity in this reality, in full consciousness, if you wish, to work through them, to see them in front of your eyes, see them in this, what we call material reality, to think of them as material. When in essence, I think scientists would argue that all of this is an illusion. I know that yogis do. I know that, mystics do, that this materialization as we see it is hard and fast is not what we think it is. Material reality is vastly different. And that's where nanotechnology, by the way, comes in. Because we live in a universe or a multiverse that is radically abundant. Limitation is a complete illusion. And you can see how that would be true since God is unlimited and everything. So how can limitation have any weight?
Right. Well, I think the biggest challenge that man has is, and I've done seminars on this, is we put limitations upon ourselves based on, you call it MK Ultra or your parenting or whatever, or all of the above. But it's very simple. So I want to give this analogy. Is there proof that a person has successfully remote viewed? Yes. Is there proof that a person has successfully used telekinesis? Yes. Is there proof that a person has successfully done mind reading, talk to the other side? I mean, the story goes on and on and on. There's proof that at least one person has done all these amazing things, even an empath feeling what somebody else is feeling without even talking to them. Okay, but what do we have in common? We all have the identical structure of brain. Some people just know how to access it and other people don't. So we are limitless. And next thing you know, they have a phenomenal memory, or they could read minds. So the key is we have to remove just that understanding. To me, that basic understanding is very helpful for people to know if one person can do it, you can do it. It's just a matter of being open to it and exploring it. Kerry, this is awesome. But you give us the last words. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. And people, if you want to see her in person, she'll be in San Diego with us on June 24th. And of course, anything else I'd like to know that you're doing in the meantime that people could find you at.
Okay, sure. Well, I do at least 3 shows a week. So I would appreciate people to go to my website, projectcamelotportal.com. It's also projectcamelot.tv.
All her links are below, and there's a bunch of them. They're all below in the description.
Okay, great. And projectcamelot.org. I also have, my shows are on Rumble. Everything most recent is on Rumble and Odyssey, also odyssey.com. There's a Project Camelot channel on both those video platforms, I guess you call them. I was banned from YouTube. I do have a remnant YouTube channel or two out there, but I can't access them. And I'm banned again from them. So they just sort of float out there, but they don't have that many videos, but you can still watch some of my shows there from quite a while ago. So what else to tell you? I really don't know. I think that the more the limitations they put on us, the more we have to realize is that freedom is in our hands. Everything is in our hands. Okay. And ultimately, as we bond and share and become a strength, a group, a strong group, don't ever let them isolate you again. Don't ever let them, lock you down. Don't ever let them shut you up by putting a mask on your face and limiting the amount of oxygen that goes to the brain, especially of your children, for God's sake. So these are the things that I care very deeply about. And I just want to see people learn to be free and know that they are free. It's just how they deal with it, right?
Yep, that's beautiful. Awesome. Thank you, Kerry, very much again. And folks, June 24th, she'll be there at the Truth Tour. Check out all her links and please go to her website and support her also. She's very, very humble. She never said buy this or buy this. We still have to survive. So go to her website. She's got phenomenal products, and I guarantee you she's done her research before she's put them on there too. All right. Thanks, Kerry. Appreciate you very, very much.
Likewise. And thank you so much, Lewis.
Of course. And it always takes on Rumble about 15 seconds. I'm just going to make sure that we are clear here in just a moment.